now tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Good morning, beautiful people. What is going on? It's Friday, part 1. I don't know about anybody else, but guess what? I'm happy to be here. How are you doing? What's going on, good people of the Cayman Islands? Give me 1 second here now. We got to get this show on the road. We got lots to talk about this morning. Let me just put it up on the website. So what's on the discussion table for this morning? Well, we have a couple leftover topics from yesterday. You know, sometimes there's just not enough time in a show. So we are going to be talking about drug addiction briefly in the Cayman Islands. That's a very lengthy topic, I must say. So believe me, when I tell you that we could be talking about that one forever, but we'll get started. Court case updates. Wow. One little quarantine breach. I'm going to give you all the details on that. Kind of went under radar. And it's interesting that it did. It was so quiet that he appeared in court and he was sentenced to 30 days. Got to really keep an eye on those cause lists for court. So we're going to talk about that. I was in most of the appeal yesterday. What else do we have on the agenda? J. Michaels opens. Yes. That was a lot of excitement in the community yesterday. I saw y'all out there shopping and having a good time. Amazing day for them. We're going to get all the details. I understand that they're actually having a grand opening event soon. So we definitely Want to know. Wagwan, wagwan. Give us the details, J. Michaels. We will be getting it. Yes, good folks. That's going to be, I think, something that a lot of Caymanians have been waiting and looking for. So we will be having a look at that. I'm going to share my agouti video that I promised you. I've got that lined up as well. We have more missing dogs and lost rings and other things. So we'll stick a few of those up also. So lots to talk about. Let us get this party going, I would say. How is everyone? Let me just have a look and see who is here with us. Let me see here now. All right, who do we have? Who do we have? We have Evelyn, numero uno. First one to say good morning, followed very closely by Miss Morna and Marshall, of course. Larry is here, Catherine, Barbara, Louis, listening audience at home and abroad. He says top of the morning. Anne Marie, Miss Doreen, thank you so much. She's watching with us. Louis Fay is here. Good morning. Another Barbara watching us on YouTube. So don't forget, you can catch the show on Facebook, YouTube, and the website. And in fact, afterwards, we really made it easy for you to find the show on the website, because now you just scroll down the homepage and all of our YouTube shows are right there. Now, we got some stuff planned for this year. I know I keep saying that to you guys, and you must be thinking, well, where is it? Well, these things take a little bit of time. But fear not, we are very, very busy in the background, working out all the details for you. We've got an interview today that I think once we air it, you'll find very, very interesting. Conversations with is coming back. We've got tons of those that we're organizing and lining up. We wanted one gentleman. He's 89 years old, Caymanian business owner and stalwart, but unfortunately, he left for the States, for New York, for the summer holidays today. Was it today or yesterday? So we won't be able to get him in the studio, or go to location, I should say. But we hope that after he returns from his summer holiday, we can certainly have a word with him. Good morning, Miss Maria, joining us from Florida, getting her coffee and biscotti ready. Yes, sounds lovely. Miss Iva is here. Anthony, Miss Iva, I still need to link you about my mangoes, Joe. Yes, takes a minute for me to get to you, but good morning, Anthony. You're in the BRAC today? What's going on? A little vacation? Staycation? Yes, I said Friday part 1. That means it's Thursday. Tomorrow is the real Friday. All right. Miss Corrine is here. Big up to Miss Corrine. Gave me some lovely mangoes over the weekend. You'll be happy to know that they were eaten that same evening, Miss Corrine. And my mango tree, I told my husband now, don't kill my mango tree that Miss Corrine gave me, because that's a local mango. You know, that's like gold to me. So make sure you plant that and water that and get that going. And how long does a mango tree take to get to bearing age? I don't know how many years that's going to be, but I'm going to treat that one so precious. Good morning, Miss Beulah. Iva says, I want the weekend to come very quickly. No, it's just Friday, part 1. The volume is low. Anybody else having any audio issues this morning? Jackie, Evelyn said that she saw me ahead in the line. Oh, yes, lots of excitement yesterday. So good morning, Miss Darlene, Diana, Karen. In case you missed it, we did a live stream from J. Michaels yesterday. You guys have got to go back and see this. Wow, I love it. I'm not going to lie. I absolutely love it. So over 17,000 of you, 17.6 thousand, as a matter of fact, have already watched the video. I'm going to share it here in the description in case you missed it. You can go back and watch it. It just reminded me of a little Miami. So, it's not a massive like Miami store, but this is about the size of, I mean, I've been in Marshalls and stuff that were probably this size. I don't know what the exact square footage is, but this is a good size store. Evelyn got an MK bag. She's saying that she bought it. Notice how she put that in caps. She didn't have to steal it because she could purchase it. Good for you. Unlike some other alleged goddesses, alleged BBs. Yes, child. So everywhere I go now, people are stopping me about these two and saying, "My dear, Miss Sandra, sweet BB, she'd always been hype." People who know her from when she was in Jamaica are like, "Ugh, my dear, she is hype like we don't know why." So, okay. Somebody just sent me something, but it's like 8 pages long. Says they've got some good news. Well, you're gonna have to break this down. Lots of stuff I can't read right now. Anyway, yes. Let me just tell you guys that I've gotten some additional information about this duo, and this is one of the things that I wanted to share with you all. First of all, it's quite interesting, but this is the source that we have been given. So apparently, someone said Megan, her marriage is paid for. These are allegations. Her marriage is paid for and not a real marriage. We're trying to find out who this guy is. These marriages of convenience is what is being alleged. And for BB, her sister has her work permit and she's not really working. Wow. So that's the sus. We got contacts in the Jamaican community. And so these people just sound like scammers all the way around. And I really hope to God that immigration, which is now works, is paying attention. Because if they're not, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have a problem. So one is alleged to be working under her sister. So her sister has her permit. Probably the sister's married to Cayman, and who knows what that arrangement is. And then the other one is alleged to be the other girl is alleged to be in a marriage of convenience where it's just paid to play sort of thing. I think some of our people are asleep at the wheel. What can I tell you? So that's super interesting. Works, I think, needs to do a better job. But you know what I always say too, to be fair to Works? If you all know about these marriages of conveniences and this sort of thing, and you're doing nothing about it, you're not informing the authorities, how do you think they're going to know? Because there's so many people doing it now. It's like become the norm for this to be happening. And so unfortunately, a lot of times the authorities simply do not know. right? And if they don't know, then they don't know. So I appreciate you all telling me, but you've got to give the authorities something to work with so that they can take action, because I think it's very difficult to prove that someone is in a marriage of convenience. Some I think are easier than others to prove, but unfortunately, most people do a really good job of hiding these types of things. So if you know something, please, by all means, speak up. Share it with the authorities. Like, I have a lot of people contacting me about the tourism stipend, and they're saying that there are people who are taking advantage of that, and some people have even left the jurisdiction. They're no longer in Cayman, right? Okay. Well, if that's the truth, then you need to notify someone. You can't assume the authorities are going to know this. A lot of them are overworking, being overworked. They are doing the most. And so this sort of thing just falls under the radar. People have gotten jobs. I've heard of stories of, okay, the person initially needed it, but now they have a full-time job, sometimes with government. This is the allegation, and that they're still getting the stipend. Well, if you know that to be a fact, kindly provide a name and details, right? Because, everybody's like, oh, there are people taking advantage of the system. Well, if the system doesn't know that they're being taken advantage of, they simply don't know. So I would invite you to share that information. Send it to me. If you don't want to reach out to the authorities directly, send it to me, but you got to have your ducks in a row. You got to know what you're talking about so that we can ensure that we pass the information on to the relevant persons. That's the only way that this sort of thing is going to really come to head and stop. Yeah, it's to me, it's simple. But it's only simple if you provide the information to the authorities and they're actually able to do their job. Big shout out to Miss Donna. She's joining us today. Richie's here. Karen says about 4 years for mango tree. Oh, wow. That's a long time. In the meantime, I'll still be begging my local mangoes from you guys. Good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning, Alice. Morna, I did buy a pair of shoes yesterday. I ended up getting a black pair. I don't know if I showed you guys those on camera. I kind of don't think I did. I think I ended the live stream by then. But I got a black pair and it has like a light pink at the bottom. Very stylish, I must say. They look very good. I can't tell my husband. Don't tell Marlon. Nobody says anything to Marlon about the shoes. Because the truth of the matter is I'll probably be back in another week or two. I literally just cleared out my shoe closet, is what I call it. Because I told you guys, my feet have grown. I don't know how all this baby thing happens, but I know for sure that since I've had a baby, not only has my hair fallen out, but my feet have grown. And so I'm not really a 9.5 anymore. Some 9.5s can still work, but comfortably for most shoes, I'm a size 10. Anyway, so you guys will remember the young lady who lost her job because of her shoe situation. Well, I had some brand new shoes. They're still sitting in my car, actually, because I'm trying to get together with her because she doesn't have transportation. But I think she said she had a job interview yesterday. She's supposed to have a job interview online. So that's good progress. She's still actively looking. She's still trying to work with Works to get registered for jobs in their portal. But I took out a few pairs of shoes. So I've made some room. And I mean, these are brand new shoes, hadn't been worn. I think there's one pair that maybe was worn like once, lightly worn. And so I'm going to donate those to her so that no future employers have that excuse. And so I've got a couple empty spaces in the shoe rack now. So I'm thinking, I can do one or two little pairs of shoes. Irvlin's like, yes, I saw you pay for them. Yes, girl. That was hard, cold cash that I paid. And the lady said, do you want a bag? And I said, no, because I felt like that was a waste of bag. Most of the times I just tell them, like when I'm in Miami, I'm like, keep the box because this is about to get thrown in a suitcase. So I don't even need the box. But I thought to myself, let me not walk out without the box because then people might be like, oh, she really did steal those shoes. Let me tell you. I had somebody call me yesterday. They had this whole story about how the buzzer had gone off on them when they were leaving the store. And so they were like, before anybody sends you a video saying that I was stealing, here's what happened. They gave me this long story. I was like, girl, don't worry about it. That is just an honest mistake sort of situation. Some tag wasn't removed or whatever. Good morning, lady. Welcome. Yes, Karen, that's what honest people do. We pay for our goods. Good morning, David, joining us from London. Yeah, we don't steal from people, and it's a very transparent transaction. So I want to know, Irvlin, which MK, what is it? MK bag did you actually purchase? Because I have my eyes on that black one. I sure hope that you didn't go and grab that one up. Jasara, Miss Sue, Daphne is joining us. Good morning, darling. Locked in. In this case, who do we contact at Works? Well, they're supposed to have an enforcement arm. Now, you guys might not know this. Good morning, Tracy from Canada. Snowing already. Snowing in May. Wow. So you guys might not know this, but Jeremy Jackson, is it Jeremy? Hold on. Let me get his name. Not Jeremy. Hold on. I'm going to tell you who he is. Jeremy Scott. I think he was he actually appointed or acting? Because sometimes government puts people acting in these positions for so long that you literally forget. But Jeremy Scott is no longer acting as the head. In fact, he has moved back into enforcement. And someone was just asking me yesterday, why didn't he want the work? I mean, want the job. And I said, you know what? I heard, because I'd heard that he had left the position, that he just didn't want the stress of it all. It was like too much. Yes, he's been there for donkey years, but I understand. He's just like, you can keep this job. Put me back in enforcement. And I think to myself, maybe that's not a bad thing because he's been in enforcement a really long time. Oh, someone just sent this to me saying work comes to the BRAC, and they actually said Jeremy Scott, who's returning to his job as Deputy Director of Compliance. Yes. So now the new interim director is Laura Watler. Who's Laura Watler? Anyway, child. He doesn't want the job, is what I've been told. Too much stress. There has been a lot of information about what has gone down in terms of the former head, Miss Shirley Rolston. There's a whole story there that is just going under the radar, Clifton. We can't get the full sus. But remember, Miss Shirley was over at the ombudsman's office. The allegation, the story on the streets, was that the ombudsman, Sandy, was jealous, or I don't know if jealous is the right word, but concerned that Miss Shirley, a qualified lawyer, might actually take her job. So they gave her some little deputy position since they wouldn't give her the real job that she'd applied for. And then the head gets a bit, Sharon, sorry, I'm confusing the sisters, not Shirley. Sharon, thank you. Somebody in WhatsApp caught that. And so, yes, the Marl Road story goes that Sandy wasn't comfortable with someone who had applied for her job actually being her deputy because they might show her up sort of thing. And so Sharon was moved into Works. And she was there for, I feel like it was maybe a year or more. And then she disappeared from Works. No official announcement was made or anything. And to the best of my understanding, again, this is what the Marl Road's talking, Sharon is in limbo. She hasn't returned to the ombudsman's office, and they don't seem to know what to do with her. So it's strange because I'm like, she was the head of Works. Why not keep her there? But she was seconded to that position is what I understand happened. And then I believe when they advertised the position that she probably applied for it, but didn't actually get it. So they've been kind of sliding people in and out of the position, which makes you wonder about issues like continuity and, planning for that Works agency. So Sharon was there during the transition, and the transition took a lot longer than they had anticipated. Marshall says that I'm going to have to give him some hush money not to tell Marlon about the shoes. We don't pay no bribes around here, honey. So, oh well. Clifton is saying to hide the credit card. Clifton, you'd be happy to know that I don't even have a credit card because that lesson was learned a long time ago. Cut that up. Hard, cold cash or nothing at all. So I got me some comfortable Skechers. I love their shoes because they're very, very comfortable. Good morning to Ralston. How are you? James watching from Canada. Miss Joy says the marriage law is clear on what to do if you think someone is about to enter a marriage of convenience. But suspecting something is not enough, especially once the marriage has been formalized. It has to be in writing and proof must be provided. So someone reminds us that Elvis works in enforcement as well. Someone else shared that these two women have been stealing from the day that they landed. Allegedly, we'll add that on. Some business owners downtown still trying to get them in court, but the Jamaican police and the RCIPS, or Royal Jamaican Islands Police Service, I'm sorry, but I have to laugh at that one. That is so full of shade. You guys are not. What percentage of the police force do you think are Jamaicans? It's a lot. 60, 70%, I would be willing to bet. Maybe that's an FOI question. This person says, or Royal Jamaican Islands Police Service is delaying whilst they keep stealing and robbing down the place. Some store owners soon, I won't say, but do something to them, is what they said. They were much more blunt than that. And they said people are producing fake CI marriage certificates. What? Fake CI marriage certificates and status letters and naturalization docs, fake police records too. CBC is who give them time. Works need to be cleaned up, and they have these new Caymanians working there now, and it's a royal mess. Fake CI marriage certificates, status letters, and naturalization docs, and fake police clearance. Girl, I don't know if you're a girl or not, but do say where this information is coming from. I mean, in terms of who makes a fake certificate. So yes, poor Sharon Ralston remains in limbo as far as I can know. We will attempt to find out more. I understand that there's a whole story there that just has gone under radar, you know. Evelyn purchased the black bag. She says they have more in the showcase. Morning, Miss Daisy. Morning, Tracy. Magdalene, thank you. Yes, acting. Everybody's acting over at works. Can we get some non-actors, like somebody actually appointed? Felicia, good morning. Got all the staff at work loving the show. Oh, thank you, my dear. You're in the UK, right? Wow, I'm glad to hear that they're enjoying it. Punctus, good morning to you. Celine is here. I always get Sharon and Shirley mixed up because the names are so incredibly close, and obviously they're two sisters. And of course, we know Shirley is an environmental activist, and she does a lot in the community. So I feel like her name is always in my head. But yes, we're talking about Sharon Ralston, and Sharon is a qualified attorney at law. And so I would love to know what is going on with Sharon. So she was actually appointed as the director of the National Workforce Development Agency. This was this new unit. And she was there during the entire transition. And then she quietly was removed from the position, or just wasn't there. And then last year, September, we heard Sandy Hermiston from the Ombudsman's office says that she was in talks with Sharon to figure out where she was going to go. So let me give you a little bit of history about this, because I feel like since it's come up, let's discuss it. So in 2018, she was appointed to the Office of the Ombudsman to handle complaints about the civil service. So this was this big announcement. 4 weeks later, she was seconded to the National Human Resources Department to head up this new department, which would eventually be named Works, or Work, W-O-R-C. So that's strange, because why would you be appointed in a position and then 4 weeks later basically moved and seconded somewhere else? This is what I'm telling you. So the rumor in the street was that happened because Sandy was not comfortable with Sharon being in that position, working right under her, and maybe keeping a close eye on her. Because remember, Sharon actually applied for Sandy's job and didn't get it. Now, this is what you call this is a whole bag of mess. So government had began this recruitment process for an interim director for the NHR, the National Human Resources Department. But at the time, Sharon Ralston was placed in the position. Like literally in January of 2018, it was announced that she had joined the Ombudsman's office. Now, keep in mind, I got to break this down for y'all so that you can remember some details about this. Sharon actually ran in the 2017 election and was unsuccessful. I can't remember which area she ran in, but there had been stories floating around that in order to not have her run again, because government does this a lot, like if you run and they see you get close to winning or you did decent and they're like, oh, this person could really be working in the community and unseat a progressive member, that they'll actually just give you a job. Maybe that's why Noelle kept saying that the PAC government was going to give me a job. Like, I don't know. He has this idea in his head, and it seems like that's the sort of thing that the progressive does, not the PAC. The progressive does that. They're the ones who give you a job to either shut you up or to keep you talking in favor of them. So thank you. Someone reminded me that she ran in Georgetown South. So Sharon is obviously qualified. I'm sure she was qualified to be the ombudsman, but nonetheless, she did not get that position. So she was actually given the deputy ombudsman's position in the complaints division. And remember now the history of how all of this works. So Sandy Hemiston, whatever the heck her name is, she had come into this ombudsman position, and that was an amalgamation of several offices, including the Freedom of Information Office, right? So she took that and what used to be just the ombudsman and all got put together. And so there was also Peter McLaughlin, who was a former UK police officer with the RCIPS for some 9 years. He was in the Professional Standards Unit. He also joined the office as a senior police investigator. Yes. And so he's going to deal with complaints. I think he's still there. I don't even know. Of his former colleagues. So that happened in January of 2018. So Rolston has over 20 years of legal experience. She has served in numerous statutory boards, including immigration, planning. She volunteers a lot. And she first ran for political office in 2013 as a C4C independent candidate, and then again in 2017 for Georgetown East. So it wasn't Georgetown South. It was actually Georgetown East. I didn't think it was South because in 2017, South was Barbara, Alric, and I can't remember who else, but there's somebody else. And Roy McTaggart edged her out in 2017. Remember, he was also a C4C person back in the day, which is interesting. So Sandy Hermiston had taken up that job in September of 2017. So she came from Canada. She claims that she was impressed with the credentials of the new hires, including Sharon Ralston. There were a lot of stories about Sandy renovating her office to the tune of like a lot of money. I can't remember the exact figure now, but I heard it was so much money that eyebrows were being raised. Like she needed to gut it and redecorate it and do this and do that. And it was like, all that is necessary? Government talking about they ain't got no money, but clearly they got money to approve certain projects. Somebody else needs to FOI that. Someone was asking me about FOI yesterday, and do you know that I can probably count on one hand the stuff that I've ever FOI'd? Like, I'm just not an FOI person because the God's honest truth is most of the time I don't need to FOI it because I have other people sending me their FOI stuff, and or I just have contacts who tell me what the source is. So instead of me waiting 30 days to get an FOI response and then have them run you in circles talking all sorts of foolishness, I just be like, bring, this is the information I need. Tell me what's going on. And I get the information. So anyway, that was January of 2018. By February of 2018, less than 4 weeks, now this is record transition time, Sharon, again, going from a deputy position in the office of the ombudsman, was seconded to the National Human Resources Department to head that up. But you guys know what a secondment is. A secondment means you're on loan. And the idea is that you return back to your position. So government does this all the time. I think sometimes it can be at the request of the worker. So they may be interested in a position. And so they say, oh, can I try this out? Ralston said it was good seeing CMR at J. Michaels. Thank you. So yes, she got seconded. And returning back now out of that secondment seems to be where there's a problem. And I'm a little bit concerned about how this is being handled, especially for a Caymanian with Sharon's reputation, being highly qualified, etc. I hear that government is kind of trying to push her out. But, she's a lawyer, so they better come good because she'll sue you. Pretty sure of that. So anyway, she was seconded. She did the transition, of course, in typical government fashion, the transition from immigration to CBC and works and pulling that apart and whatever. It didn't happen in the time frame that they anticipated, and it was a little bit slower. So at the time, the Deputy Governor Francis Manderson was quoted as saying that this was a loss for the new independent office of the ombudsman, which makes it sound like if it was something that was like work experience, or the ombudsman's like, oh great, this will be good for you, and you're coming right back. Saying that something's a loss, it sounds kind of like it was meant to be permanent, and that was just a politically correct way of pushing Sharon out the door over at the ombudsman's office. Anyway, they said that she was uniquely qualified for the HR job, heading up the National Human Resources Department. There was no comment made about the recruitment process and other applicants who may have applied. And I'm telling you, that's because the talk on the street even back then was that Sandy didn't want her there. She saw her as some sort of professional threat, and she wanted her out the door. And so this is what it was. So they said, oh, we were so thankful to Miss Sandy for agreeing to this secondment. Okay. Anyway, this was a press release back in 2018. So Miss Sharon went over there. She did her thing. And then, let me just see here now. So Sharon has all kind of experience. A lawyer since 1996. Served in the Marine Authority of the Cayman Islands, Work Permit Board, volunteered with the NWDA. Yeah, she's been very, very active. The NWDA was the National Workforce Development Agency. And remember now, that has basically been absorbed into Works, right? So that's no longer around. So there were some questions about how all of this happened. And then in 2020, when she was pushed out the door over at the new Works Agency, which she was instrumental in putting together, there were questions about, hold on a second, she was seconded to Works, it eventually became Works. At first, it was the National, what did we just say? This National Human Resources Development. Boy, government can come up with some names. 2 years there. And her secondment, I guess, ended during the summer of 2020. And Ralston, this is what it says in another publication, Ralston has not been allowed to return. What does that mean? How can you, she was on secondment. How can you not allow her back? See, this adds some little tentacles to the story about there being some little friction between her and Sandy over at the ombudsman's office. So in 2020, September of 2020, Sandy Hermiston said, we are currently in discussions regarding her position. Ms. Ralston's on the payroll of the Office of the Ombudsman and is being paid. Miss Sandy, what the hell are you talking about? What does that mean? Of course she's being paid. You better not pay her. But that's not the point. So in other words, she's still at the payroll of the Ombudsman's office, not working, but getting paid. And once they start to do this, they've done it to a lot of people over the years. Shadiness is afoot. This is when they have no intentions of bringing her back. Government has done this enough times now for us to know the MO. So the source says here that she was ready to go back to the job. It had not been given our start date. Lots of questions. And then, while Rolston was a director at Works, her job at the ombudsman's office, now I hope y'all are paying attention. Wake up, people. Sip that tea and coffee and water, because I'm about to drop something on you that, again, this has completely been going underneath our radar, but we need to discuss it. And this was not the discussion that we were planning this morning, but you know what? The Lord works in mysterious ways, because we're going to talk about it. Who do you think she has been replaced by? None other than a Canadian named Ted Miles. Hermiston explained that he was recruited to backfill, that was her terminology, recruited to backfill the period that Rolston was on secondment. What's the point of putting her in secondment if you really needed her over there? Like this is sounding more and more like a whole little setup situation. The term of his contract employment was completed and he's returned home to Canada. So he got a nice little job for 2 years, I guess. And then no one is acting in this role. So take Sharon back. What's the problem is what I'm wondering. Then she claims that Miles is working on a part-time consultancy basis in order to ensure that we continue to provide our usual efficient and effective service in this transitional period. So hold on a second. Are you trying to tell me that he's returned to Canada, but he's still working part-time as a consultant? Yes. The complaints division is currently headed by Hermiston herself with part-time support from this consultant. Only in the Cayman Islands. Like I legit cannot make this stuff up. Really? Are you kidding me? And I'm sure if we did a little bit digging, we can probably see some connection with Ted Miles and Sandy. They probably know each other. What a hot mess. Let me see what we can find out about Mr. Ted Miles. Anyway, what a mess. We'll get some information on him. See who he is, who he be. So, I guess he's still probably a consultant. This probably hasn't changed. Wow. This was during COVID, of course. They wouldn't divulge the consultancy fee. And which was paid in addition to the salary being paid to Rolston. So of course they're going to have to continue to pay her. And it says here that she's ready, willing, and able to get back to the job. Now here, listen to this. The treatment of Rolston, who is not given an opportunity to return to continue serving at Works and is now apparently being blocked from her substantive posts at the ombudsman's office, has caused concern among some members of the public who believe that a competent, qualified Caymanian is being marginalized over what might be political motivations. Well, that wouldn't surprise us with the previous government. Rolston, whose sister is Shirley, you guys, I just said that, right? Sued government over the people-initiated referendum on the cruise port, is a qualified, yes, Sharon is a qualified attorney who ran for office, blah, blah, blah. So the thinking here is maybe the progressives government was punishing Sharon for Shirley, because that's what they do. They can't get to you, so they can't do nothing to Shirley. She doesn't work for government. She's not on the payroll. They can't do nothing to her. The next best bet is that they are going to go after your relatives, sisters, brothers, anybody that works in government, anybody that has a government contract. And I wouldn't doubt that that's a possibility, but I heard what was more likely the case is that at least over at the ombudsman, that Sandy just didn't want her there. Some women get very, very competitive with each other, and they think, oh, if you're more qualified and you're a Caymanian and you come in here, you're going to show me up, which is entirely possible. I'm not saying that that's not possible. But if she's hired to do a job and she's being paid to do the job, she should be actually doing the job instead of government wasting money with a part-time consultant who they're probably paying a full-time salary to. This is ridiculous. So somebody said that they believe that Sandy and Ted actually dated in college or something. I don't know if that's true, but I'm pretty sure that they know each other, as is often the case. And in fact, there's been a lot of questions about how Sandy Hemiston even got the job, because the allegations at the time were that her and the former governor, which would have been, what was her name again? The female governor that we had. Hold on. Can't even remember her name now, but her name was Helen Kilpatrick. So the allegations were that her and Helen Kilpatrick had somehow become cozy drinking buddies. Listen, I don't know. I've never sat down and even had a conversation with Helen Kilpatrick, so I cannot tell you if this is true, but I'm telling you that the streets talk a lot. And so the streets might not always have it 100%, but I'm telling you, the streets oftentimes is pretty close on the money. If it don't go so, that's why we have our, Cayman Mall Road. If it don't go so, it go close to so. Louis says don't bother calling him between 8:30 and 10:30 in his office. Louisa, good morning. Bonnie says the police force is about 75% Jamaican. Let's FOI that. I feel like that's an FOI-able question. Give us a breakdown percentage nationalities. Of course, many of them have now gotten married to Caymanians, so they probably wouldn't even be counted as anything else. Very good, Mr. Ralston. We've got Alba here. Good morning. Beba Bella. Good morning. Someone said to FOI their resumes. Both attended the same university. I don't know that they would even give us that information, but I'm sure we just need to get all of his details. I'm sure he must have a LinkedIn account. He's online somewhere. You can't hide when you're online. So since we're talking about Canadians, let's talk about this jackass of a Canadian who was in court yesterday appealing a 30-day sentence for breaching quarantine. I had to leave because I had a client appointment at 4:00, so I left at 3:45. So I did not catch the ending of the proceedings. However, oh man, they're doing it at 10:00 this morning. Oh, okay. So I'm going to have to put my girl on it because I actually have to run and get ready for my interview with the governor. But I need the sus. Let me message her because I want to make sure she's in front of that computer, girl. Let me see here. Morning. Child, when you got so much going on. All right. I'm just bringing her up to speed and what I need her to work on today for me. Ay, ay, ay. What a hot mess. So let's talk about this guy here. His name is Thomas Michael. So we're going to have the delivery of the judgment this morning at 10 o'clock. We will get the details of that up as quickly as we can. So let me just send this to our regional correspondent so that hopefully she can okay. So I just sent her all the details. We'll be getting that sus for you this morning. So let's break this down because this is one of those situations. Let me just read your comments in relation to Sharon. So Louis says, so if work staff is staffed by expats, so Caymanians don't have a chance in the jump, what needs to happen? Let me tell you something of interest. Tracy says there's a whole black market for fake vaccine certificates for happening in Canada for $5,000. You know, Tracy, we're going to be talking vaccines and vaccinations. I don't want to get into it today, but that is a serious concern as we try to open up and we try to say, well, if you've been vaccinated, we need to make sure that somebody who has good research capabilities is actually verifying these so-called vaccination certificates. Aliano says to bring all the sus. Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Daphne. Yeah, she's been in the UK for a number of years, living her best life. And Morna, thank you so much. Miss Irvelin says the marriage might be fake, but certainly not the police clearance and the certificate. Anyone issued fake documents would have committed a crime, don't you think? Well, of course, that's a crime. And if they're doing that, they need to be held to account. Michael, Michelle says that's why you've got to, Michael, that's why you've got to prove you're Caymanian. So much fake papers out there that they lost track, including illegal passports without the right to work. Please investigate quite a bit of corruption. Wow. What a mess. So Karen says, I highly doubt fake documents are here or watermarks on those documents can't be forged. Honestly doubt it's from here, maybe an overseas document that was not verified. You would think so, Karen, because yes, they do watermarks on a lot of our documentations here, but I haven't actually seen a Cayman marriage certificate. So maybe this is a question for Miss Joy. Do they have, when they issue those, do they have like watermarks? Because a lot of them have the invisible watermark until you try to copy it and then it shows up. Roberto wants a direct number from the ombudsman's office. Well, let's see. Hopefully they're back to work. Their contact information is 946 6283. 946 6283. It says they're open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. No walk-ins, appointment only. So you better call them. They're in the 5th floor of Anderson Square. Omeria says Catherine Tyson. What does Catherine Tyson have to do with it? I might have missed what that was in relation to. The love of money. What a hot mess. What a hot mess. So the other day, someone was saying to me that there was an individual. Hold on now. Let me go back and have a look at this. Someone was saying to me that there was an individual who got this position over in Works who was not even a Caymanian. Now, I found this to be a very peculiar thing because, as someone just pointed out, the whole idea of the works agencies to help Caymanians find employment. And I feel like you kind of need to understand the landscape from both the employer's perspective and the worker's perspective, and you need to know how to navigate that. I'm not saying that a expat isn't capable of necessarily navigating that, but I would think a Caymanian who is in the know would be much more suited for a position such as that. But this is what someone told me the other day. Now, let me go back and find this message. I have to think about who sent me these things. Let me just see here now. They were supposed to get some more information because I was waiting on the name of the individual to try to suss this out. But here's what somebody said to me. This was May the 1st, 20 days ago. Says, good morning. Works just hired a new manager for customer care. A frigging Indian. I'm just going to read it to you as I got it. Why is it that someone from another country is hired in positions that are supposed to look out for Caymanians' interests? I don't get it, and it pisses me off. Same with the Port Authority. Whenever a visiting vessel arrives, especially if it's after hours, the radio at the Georgetown Port Security is answered by either an Indian or Jamaican. Why does the first interaction a visiting vessel have with the Cayman authorities have to be someone from another country? It just blows my mind. But I guess it is Caymanians that hire them. So once again, we are our own worst enemy. Oh, and it sounds like the government prefers to have derelict vehicles. I think they just went off on something else here. Left on the side of the road or on property to harbor rats instead of the dump. I don't understand that logic either. So I was like, which Indian, what are we talking about here? And they said the person used to work at Health City, and I guess they'll make an announcement next week. Okay. So I said, are they married to Caymanian? Maybe they have status. Like I like to ask questions because I'm like, they can't be that stupid where they're going to just go and hire someone who used to work at Health City if they don't have any connections to the island to work in works. Can they? I mean, it's a question. So person said they weren't sure and they were supposed to get back to me, but I'm still waiting on that to happen. So I do know that May the 14th, there was an announcement of some new members of staff being hired into the position over at Works. So senior management appointments, including training and development manager, Allison Lovingood, acting interim director, Laura Watler, and head of customer care. Oh, this must be her now. Marcienne Juman. I don't see a wedding ring on her finger. Doesn't mean she's not married, but who the heck is she? So Laura, we know. She's on secondment from the portfolio of the civil service. Let's go back to this Juman lady. Customer care unit is also has a new head with the recent hire of Marcin Juman is responsible for providing leadership, development, and implementing the civil service customer service pledge. She holds a master's of business administration, blah, 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 and international business and sustainability, and a master's degree in accounting from the University of South Florida. Go the Bulls. Her previous post, sure enough, this person was right on, said that her previous post as head of office, her previous post as front of house manager at Health City, Cayman Islands, was provided with experience in blah, blah, blah. Okay, but I don't know anything about her. I've never heard of her before. So let's have a look. In this day and age, we can't assume that someone's not a Caymanian just because of a name, because, you know, people kind of come from all over now. So let me see. Is she on LinkedIn? That's an easy way to find out who's who and what's what. I don't see anything on LinkedIn. Let me see. Someone just sent something about her, though. Someone said she's not Indian, so I don't know anything about her. I don't know who she is. But someone said she's not Indian. She kind of looks like she could be, but give me the sus. Who is she and where is she from? This person assumes, I think, that she's probably Indian because she worked at Health City. Someone else wants to know when we're going to address workplace bullying. So someone else clarified that the people who are answering the phone or the radio at night at the port are actually the port security officers who are all hired, I'm sure, outsourced by somebody, some other company that is not hiring Caymanians. So someone said she's Caymanian. Well, there you go. That should solve that problem, I guess. Someone's asking if she ever worked at HSA before. I don't know. So she's either Guyanese or Trinidad, but she worked at Health City and HSA before. There you go. Okay. So, well, most Guyanese and Trinidadians are actually Indian people. So she might not be Indian, like straight from India. But what's her connection to Cayman? Does she... So someone says she grew up in CYB. So she grew up in Cayman Brac? Okay. So I guess she has some Caymanian connections is what we're now saying. So if she grew up there, she probably by now has papers. And here's the bottom line, folks. You mightn't like it, but at the end of the day, once you're here and you have acquired a piece of paper, you have status, you know, those people are Caymanians just like the rest of us. I know in our heads, a lot of us Caymanians want to talk about a generational Caymanian versus a paper Caymanian, but in law, and when it comes to employment opportunities, apparently there is no such thing as a generational Caymanian having any preference over a paper Caymanian. That's just how it is. Same thing with Jennifer Ahart. Jennifer's a Caymanian. You mightn't like it, but it is what it is. So in that case, if she's Caymanian, then I guess that's a moot point. Hopefully she knows what she needs to do in that position. And congratulations to those women. I'd like to see women doing things. So congratulations to those women who have been appointed. You know, I see a number of women over at Works. And I really hope that they're being given the opportunity to get the job done. That's all I can say. Because God knows. Works really needs to work. No pun intended, but yes, pun intended. That whole agency, when it was MWDA, has been such a dismal failure, not really meeting its remit. Caymanians complain that they just can't get a job through them. And I myself have experienced how they can be very incompetent. So here's the three young ladies that we just mentioned who were recently appointed in management positions over at Works. So congratulations to them. Allison Lovingood, Laura Watler's interim director and head of customer care. Marshini, is that how she pronounces her name? Juman. All right, so now that that's settled, let's talk about the Maple Leaf Mafia. Thank you for reminding me of that name. We say it very tongue-in-cheek, and I don't mean to insult our Canadian friends, but we got to be honest with you. Canadians can be very shady. Like they be up to something. They really, in the job market, I've seen stuff go on with them that just makes me shake my head. So let's talk about what happened in court yesterday. So we've got this guy, he comes here as a producer and he is working a job. He's supposed to be producing. So he brings the family because, you know, everybody's going to take it and turn it into vacation. And why not? If you're coming here I would do the same thing too. Hey, I'm gonna go work in the Cayman Islands, honey. Oh yeah. Well, let's bring the whole family. Pack up the dog, the cat, the gerbil, and we'll just have a vacation while I'm working. All right. I don't see anything in principle wrong with that. So he comes here to work as a producer, I guess, in one of these film projects. They film a lot of projects in Canada, I understand, because it's actually cheaper for them to do so than even in the US. But anyway, Cayman approved a number of them to come in. He's supposed to be quarantining at a private facility in Northside. And he is here. He arrives on, let me get my story straight now. Let me get my dates. He arrives on March. Hold on here now. Let me just see. So he arrives on March the 20th, brings the nanny, the wife, and a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. Good morning, Anne from St. Petersburg, Florida. Carol is here. So he shows up, and a couple days later, what are they called? The mobile compliance team are doing a random check. Well, thank God for that. And they drove by the condo that they're in Northside, and they see them outside at the pool with the children, and the nanny and the husband are not wearing their wristband. Now, you know that Mr. What's his name now? Mr. Thomas Michael, when he came here, he would have signed a document that actually said, in order for us to let you in, these are the rules. And this is what you're agreeing to. You're going to get fitted with this smart wristband. You can't tamper with it. You can't take it off. You can't leave the premises. All this stuff you agree to, you sign that document. And we're well familiar with this because remember, Skylar Mack and poor little Ramjeet got themselves in a pickle. And we discovered at that time that there is a document that they're made to sign, a legal document. And it says that if you don't follow these rules, you're subject to prosecution. So in typical fashion, he doesn't follow the rules. So him and the nanny are observed outside, not wearing their wristbands. Now, his lawyer spoke first, Ben Toner, and you guys know we like Ben. He's actually, listen, if you get yourselves in trouble and you need a good defense lawyer, I love Amelia. She's great. She's very, very knowledgeable. And Ben, he will make some arguments. I'd be sitting there listening to Ben when I'm in court, and I'm like, although we know this dude is wrong, Ben makes some compelling legal arguments. But we're going to find out this morning what the judge thinks. It's not a jury trial, so I'm going to tell you what I think. I think this is a bunch of hogwash. He needs to sit his ass in jail for the 30 days. Because it's not going to be a full 30 days. He'll only serve a portion of that. I'm actually insulted when you break the laws, you breach quarantine or whatever, because we're going to talk about the logistics of why it's not a quarantine breach. And you do the most. And then when you get sentenced, you're not man or woman enough to serve your sentence. I kind of feel like you just need to shut up and serve your sentence. It's like the little kid, what's his name? Montemayor. He's going to get jail time. And I wouldn't expect, he's a young kid, so it's going to be a tough lesson for him to learn that jail isn't nice. But at the end of the day, I'm going to expect him to serve his sentence. And he's a Caymanian, young man, 20 years old. And I expect Thomas Michael to serve his sentence too as a big man and don't complain about it. So I think it's a little bit insulting when you decide to appeal such a case. But let's dig into some of the details. So thank you. Someone confirms that she has status. She's lived in Cayman Brac. Her family's lived in Cayman Brac for 30 years and been educators in the government system for over 2 decades. There you go. So as Caymanian as you can get, I suppose. I'm just telling you guys, we just got this message, and you know, I was just like, I don't even know who she is. But see, there. Thank you guys. That's why I love this show. You guys give it to me in real time. Yes. So Magdalene said she Googled it and she got status grant back in the day. What did we do before Google? Honestly, what was life like before we could just Google everybody? Yeah, I think the person just made the assumption that because she looks Indian and she's working at Health City, maybe that's why they hired her, because she kind of looked Indian. I don't know. But yeah, she's Caymanian. So kudos to Health City for actually hiring a Caymanian. That's good. Is Samantha still at work? No, Samantha's at the HSA. She's been at the HSA for a couple years as their senior HR manager. Very good. Thank you, Jane, for clarifying that. CMR work investigation team is needed. They could hire some of y'all to get on the investigation team. Thank you, Jess. Eddie, good morning. Well, this is, we have to accept that when you give people status, they are on equal footing as you. And it is what it is. So either you're not going to give people status, or, I don't know what the alternative is. But you have to accept that once they have it, they're on equal footing. So let's go back to our little Canadian fella here. So Ben Toner made a very compelling argument. He had 3 points that he said that he wanted to talk about in terms of the appeal. First of all, he says that it was his client who was chasing the prosecutor's office to do something about it. And it was not until the 28th of last month that they finally responded to an email of his and I guess told him that he would be charged. He said that the magistrate, so he got sentenced on Friday by Chief Magistrate Valdez Foldatz on May the 14th. And it looks like, to be fair to Mr. Foldatz, it looks like I wasn't there. And it kind of, like I said, went under radar. You notice nobody has reported in this case. It's one of those that has really gone under radar. The court's office is making it more difficult for us to get access to court files. Now we have to fill out documentation and wait for it to be approved and wait till we get a phone call or an email. So I filled out a request 2 days ago to see a file, and oh no. And I get the information, which means that I now have to turn around and wait until I get that file to be able to do my story. Because, sometimes you just legit can't be there every day and you can't be in multiple places at the same time. Even yesterday afternoon, this hearing was at 2:00, and there was another sentencing hearing happening at 2:00 with a young man in gun possession and whatever. And I literally can't split myself in two. So I had to ask my regional correspondent to give me a hand, see if she could help me out. But, a lot of times she's not familiar with our court system or even the cases and stuff. So all she can do is take notes, and then I have to go back, read the notes, and figure out what transpired. Anyway, so he gets this rental. Ben Toner said that the learned judge made an error because he relied on the case of Schuyler and Ramjeet on that Court of Appeal decision and misinterpreted it, meaning that the only option was to impose a custodial sentence, when in fact, that interpretation failed to consider the variety of other available penalties that would have led to justice in this case. This is what his lawyer, Ben Toner, is arguing. He also said that this isn't a quarantine breach. What this actually is a breach of him taking off the wristband, because he didn't leave the facility. And part of the argument of his legal team is he didn't leave the facility. He stayed with family. So what's the harm? No harm, no foul. And that he should have given consideration that the starting point, because in his judgment, the chief magistrate said that the starting point was 6 months. And then he gave him, okay, you pled guilty, you get, whatever off for that, blah, blah, blah. And it came down to a 30-day sentence. So the judge, the lawyer, Ben Toner, is arguing that the starting point of 6 months was too high. Now, he provided some historical information. You guys will be reminded that the government forgot. They talked about during the campaign what a fantastic job they did handling COVID, but y'all forgot that they forgot to even implement the stricter provisions until that Canadian couple, remember the husband is a dentist and the wife is just there, arm candy. They breached quarantine from the moment they landed, at least 15 times on island. They were all over the place. Restaurants, jumping over the fence, going for strolls on the beach. They were doing the most. Remember, he's the same guy who went and lied to my website hosting company, trying to get the article taken down. Another Canadian, coincidentally. Anywho, after that breach, another one that CMR broke the story, highlighted what was going on because everybody was in the dark. They got fined $1,000 each. The government said, oh yeah, we forgot that we had all agreed to pass this new amendment to the regulations to up the jail time from 6 months to 2 years and the fine from $1,000 to $10,000. So they quick time within days of that breach, put that in place. And poor little Skylar, she came along a couple days after that and got caught by the new provisions. So he said that the starting point was too high. It shouldn't have been started at 6 months. And he went into the whole thing of how the law was developed and yada, yada, yada. He also talked about his client's dire financial situation as a result of the breach because he's been suspended from work pending the outcome of the situation. Hello, I'm gonna pull a Nancy Pelosi. Good job, employer. You should suspend him from work. Good. So now he's financially in quite a pickle. He claims the nanny has left the jurisdiction, left the 2 toddlers with the mom, and she can't handle them because apparently she's very ill. And the point was brought up at the initial sentencing hearing, but now they have more information. More information to share because the wife now has a doctor's note, no doubt from a doctor in Canada, who is talking about how sick she is. So she can't even mind her own children. So poor thing, she's having children that she cannot mind without a nanny. And with the husband being in jail, the argument is, oh, this is just unduly stressful for the family. It's just not right. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. So now his dependent's in a dire situation. Now, we've talked about this before. How people break the law, and then when their family members suffer, including underage children potentially, they're all over it like, oh my God, woe is me. You can't let my poor children suffer. This just isn't right. And I'm thinking, yeah, it isn't right, but whose fault is it? So you put yourself in a situation where your sick wife, and I don't know what kind of sickness she's got, but he's like, oh, I don't think we should read it in court, but Your Honor, you can look at it. I was like, we want to know. Read it in court. Because honestly, we do want to know. How sick is she? I'm just saying. Give us the sus. You're claiming she's sick. What is it? What does she have? Is it MS? Is it, tell us what she has. And so it was very, very interesting. But then when Greg Walcom, and I think I accidentally called him a senior crown counsel, and he isn't a senior crown counsel. He's actually just, I guess, crown counsel, but normally a senior crown counsel would be handling a case of this magnitude, an appeal like this, but I must say he wasn't too shabby. I found his arguments. He's very, very calm. And you know what I always find interesting about lawyers? You know, they've done this a million times. So they're not really invested in it in terms of, it's not like they're on trial, right? So they just stick to the issues. And sometimes, now my prosecutor, Darlene Oku, she was making it very personal. Like, I was like, you know, the little old ladies with the cats. I'm not making fun of old ladies with cats, but I'm just saying, you know, they'll have like 10 cats at home, and you do anything to their cats, they're going to have it out for you. I kind of felt like I was the person who hurt her and her little kitty. The way she was coming at me and making it so personal. I'm like, is she best friends with Matthew Leslie? That was the question. I like legit during the trial. I'm like, what is going on here? It was just so weird. Because I've never, ever, and I've sat through a lot of cases and I watch these lawyers. I have never seen a lawyer get as personal and petty, in my opinion, as this woman did. It felt very personal. Blissful, yes, the chair is moving and that's me. She's like, you got a ghost in the studio. I think I've mentioned this before, but maybe all of you have not heard it. I'm actually physically standing up. That's why my head is like the flag and the door. You notice my head is like almost level at the door. That's because I am standing. 99% of the times when I do my show, I am standing. And the chair, because I'm not sitting in it, sometimes I'm actually putting my knee on the chair. So that's what you see me doing, like here. And yes, that's when I move the chair. So that solves that puzzle, right, Blissful? Because you're like, that looks shady. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, so All right, good folks. So yes, so when the prosecutor got up, Greg Walcom, he said, hold on a second, Your Honor. Let us get the facts correct. Because there's been a couple nuances. You know, they say the devil's in the details. That my learned friend here, Mr. Ben Toner, has not properly explained to the court. And I was like, oh, sometimes court gets a little boring. These arguments get a little boring. You almost feel like you want to snooze in court. But when he started talking, folks, I was sitting up paying attention. I was like, oh, do tell. I'm there typing, make sure I get all the notes. So apparently, he was breaching this provision of removing the wristband from day one. The day he arrived on the 20th, the mobile compliance team didn't actually do a home check, a wellness check, or whatever they're calling it, on them until the 23rd. So for 3 days, he had his wristband off. And let us be very clear and honest here. If you have your wristband off, although they didn't catch him off the property, because that was part of the argument, right? It doesn't mean that he didn't go off the property. It just means that he was never caught. So at the end of the day, we can't speak to that because we don't want to unfairly say that that is what happened. But the question does begin to seep into your mind that, well, surely that is a possibility. I'm just saying. So Mr. Walcom informed the court that evidently when the mobile compliance unit approached them, what they did was they ran inside the house. I want y'all to pay attention now. These are the details that his lawyer didn't mention that put an entirely different spin on this story. So they ran inside the house with the children, barricaded themselves, like locked the door, refused to open the door. for the mobile compliance unit. You know, they have some kind of enforcement capability, right? You're supposed to open the door to them. They refused to open the door, hid inside the condo with the children until the police came. And even when the police arrived, it took some coaxing for them to open the door. Say what now? Ooh, honey child. Now the story just got that much more interesting in court. I was like, oh, if I'm a judge and I'm hearing this, I'm like, that certainly shows a different mindset. And then on top of that, they quickly put on the wristband and lied that the wristbands were on the entire time. Carrie Ann says quarantine and local rentals don't work. Wow. Because people are not complying with the government rules and landlords is not putting their foot down. Well, I don't think it's the landlord's job. It's not the landlord's job to police these people. They wouldn't have anything better to do. Anyway, lied to the authorities. So the authorities had to go and pull CCTV footage. And that is how they know that they had been removing the wristbands from the 20th. I'm thinking, what kind of wristbands are these? I mean, honestly, I don't understand the technology that is being used here with these wristbands, because they were saying, oh, you have to keep the phone charged like 30%. Da, da, da. You know what the problem with these wristbands are? And this is where now, instead of having Dr. Lee assist with selecting the products, because I know I told you guys this before, but I'm going to repeat it. There were people in ICT who were going to assist government in procuring what would be the appropriate hardware, software, whatever, to deploy this quarantine at home program. Dr. Lee jumped in. He said, no, I've got it. I know how to do it. Now, we like Dr. Lee, but Dr. Lee, you're not an expert in everything. So let the IT experts figure this out, because now I'm thinking to myself, why is it they're proximity devices, right? So if you take off the wristband and you lay it next to the phone, you can walk around all you want. You can leave the premises, you can do whatever. The phone still says, well, yes, the wristband is there. So how easy is that to fool? Because apparently what they did was they stretched because they're made of that plasticky material, kind of like I think what you get the wristbands when you go to the hospital. So they're made of a plastic and they stretch them and pull them off. They didn't break them, but they appear to be very easy to tamper with. Yes, Carol, that's why they ran inside and locked themselves up, because they put the wristbands back on and then lied that they hadn't taken them off. So my question is, why did we not get wristbands that are actually checking the pulse of the individual? Because then that would have prevented Skylar from, so it's not just a proximity sensor, because like I said, you leave the phone with the wristband and it doesn't even know where you're at. That don't make no sense. What makes more sense is just like a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, whatever, it's checking your pulse. So that if there is no pulse, the authorities can go, oh, we just got an alert that all of a sudden this wristband has no pulse. Government, I keep giving you guys ideas for free. Take it and run with it. We, the people of the Cayman Islands, deserve a little bit more competency with these sorts of things. That would have been a wristband system that would have been worth the investment. Okay? I'm just saying. When they talk about reopening the borders, they better try and get me on that committee. Because I'm going to be scrutinizing the situation about how we need to verify and check these so-called vaccination certificates, et cetera, et cetera. Because people lie. I mean, who does this? You're a father of 2 young children. You've just been invited into the beautiful Cayman Islands, which is COVID-free, restriction-free. Why would you do this? This is so stupid. It doesn't matter that you're just going out by the pool. But you see, this is the thing, right? They're coming here for vacation. And the wristbands can't get wet for more than 30 seconds or whatever. Again, it would have been perhaps a better idea to purchase something that was a little bit more durable that could get wet. Even my Fitbit, I can swim in that. You know, you can immerse that in water. Anyway, they put it back on. They lied to the police. And so the DPP gives a very different story. They're like, he wasn't chasing us. In fact, he didn't admit his guilt until the 28th when he reached out to them via email. So the DPP's position is his actions were highly culpable and a deliberate breach that began on the day that they arrived and wasn't discovered until there was a routine check on the 23rd, some 3 days later. And that was just by chance. He argued that, yes, the removal of the wristband isn't a quarantine breach, but it is a breach nonetheless of the conditions that you have agreed to, and that it's actually a serious infraction. Because what it does is at the earliest possible time, it lets the authorities know, hold on a second, we have someone who has breached a condition of the agreement, which could potentially lead to a more serious offense, which would then be a quarantine breach. So let's nip it in the bud kind of thing. So it was very interesting. The DPP said that Chief Magistrate Foldatz actually used a holistic approach and had properly applied the law, considering all of the elements of the offense. Now, here's the kicker, because I was sitting there thinking the exact same thing when the DPP addressed it. He said, oh, and by the way, in reference to the nanny no longer being here, right? Because it's like, oh, the nanny left and now this poor woman's by herself and she's sick. Why did the nanny leave? Because she knew the chances of her being prosecuted for the exact same offense, because she was the second person without the wristband on, was just as high as the man. So in other words, they were going to prosecute her and she took off and left the jurisdiction before they could have. I'm like, what kind of system we got ya? Honestly. From when they were warned for prosecution that day on the 23rd, passport should have been confiscated because he probably could have left too. Passport should have been confiscated and ain't nobody going nowhere. And yes, the nanny should also be in jail for 30 days. But, you know, I don't know, what we gonna call them? $2 police officers. They're not making $2. They're making good salaries, but I'm speechless. They allowed her to leave. So this whole idea of, oh, the nanny left and now the mother is on her own. Well, ask yourselves why the nanny left, and none of that should matter when you're looking at what's the appropriate sentence for him. Too bad for her. She can go home. So the mother doesn't have to stay here with the children. She could go home and get help from her kids. From her family with the kids, which would mean less money because now he's claiming that he's broke and he doesn't have any money. And this undue hardship because the nanny left the jurisdiction. There's a bit more to the story than that. Keystone Cops, I think, is the term I'm looking for. So let's see what you guys think about this situation. DJ Yo-Yo says they don't do no checks at all. I do have a friend that just finished quarantine and said in 11 days of the quarantine, no one came by to check, and that the wristband is easy to take off and been left at the facility and go elsewhere without being noticed. And this is a problem, folks. People owe lots of money. Which people? Jasara said if it was a Caymanian, they would have tore the door down. Just saying. Eddie's asking about outstanding money for PR. Well, I'm sure that still hasn't been paid. Now they're going to blame COVID. No money because of COVID. Good morning, Debbie. Rose is just asking what's going on. Why we Caymanians at birth can't get a job. I applied for a job. Ciao. That's the $1 million question. Magdalene says, as you said, Dr. Lee, IT, if it was a Caymanian, they would have been removed long time. Good morning, Daphne. Cece says, invest so much money into sidewalk that breaks easily for something they claim they paid over $3 million for. Kismati, that's the one in South Sound. Ban her from here. She's not coming back. Banning somebody doesn't work when they have no desire, or I went to the Cayman Islands once on vacation. That'll be a story that she tells her grandchildren. The nanny, she'll never be back anyway. So banning her, that whole after the fact approach kind of is like, is it really going to make a difference? I'm pretty sure she doesn't own property here. She probably doesn't even care. So this morning at 10 o'clock, Judge Richards will deliver her verdict in this appeal. So they're appealing the 30-day sentence, basically saying that the sentence is too much. Nicole says that they're doing random compliance checks and so on. I think there are too many people right now to really say how often it's being done. So the GPS one isn't foolproof, but I tell you what, if you had one checking your pulse and your heartbeat, it would be a lot harder to fake that. In fact, do you guys remember the story I told you a number of months ago where this fiance caught her boyfriend or fiance, whatever, cheating? And it was all because of his Fitbit. So they had their Fitbits linked to each other. Well, they didn't say it was a Fitbit brand, but same thing. It was probably Fitbit because you can link those and do little competitions, walking competitions and whatever. So his was linked with her account, like her phone, so that whenever they would do competitions and stuff, right? And all of a sudden at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, she's getting notifications that he's exercising. Heart rate going up. She's like, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? He ain't exercising. He's supposed to be at home or something. So it's obvious that he wasn't sleeping. And so that led to her doing some investigations to discover that he was in bed with another woman. That's what was raising his heart rate. And so his little dilly-dallying was caught by the Fitbit because the heart rate was pumping and going up, which led her to ask questions. So that engagement was off. Just Sarah. We mentioned the thieves. We did that already, Cece. Did you miss that at the beginning of the show? You got to tune in early, child, because you're going to miss something if you don't tune in early. And today we can't go into overtime because I got to get moving. So let me do a quick update on the alleged taxi cab rapist, because this is another case. Yes, Jonathan, when I read that, I was like, this is just unreal. Unbelievable. But his Fitbit caught him. So this is Mr. Everett Gould is how he pronounces it. So he was in court on the 18th. That was Tuesday morning. His matter is now being, what do they call it? It's escalated isn't the right word. It's been committed to the Grand Court. So this is the gentleman who's being accused of sexually assaulting a woman whilst he was a taxi cab driver, and in that role as a taxi cab driver. Leon, yes, is what y'all know him as. So Leon, His full name is Everett Leon Gold, 39 years old. He was in court on Tuesday. It's being transmitted to Grand Court where he'll have to enter a plea at his next hearing. So, Summary Court Magistrate Philippa McFarland, big shout out to Philippa. I actually went to law school with her, had to consider a bail application from the DPP's office. Now, we can't give the DPP props when they're not doing the right thing. So I think Mr. Greg Walcombe did a decent job yesterday. I don't know who this lady is that they had that day. She sounded English, but I couldn't quite. She was very soft-spoken, so I couldn't quite get a fix on the accent. So I'm not really sure who she is. I didn't hear a name or anything, but child, she came with one application that even in court, it had me scratching my head. I was like, what the hell? So she requested a bail amendment because apparently he's been on bail for 1 year and 10 months. There doesn't seem to be any desire to expedite this case. And so she was now requesting an amendment. And it looks like she was just reading off the request. Like she didn't really have anything to do with, she was just there. So normally they send a lawyer with a stack of the files for the day, especially when they're mentions, so that they can look at the file and the judge will say, okay, we'll put it off another 2 weeks so that the attorneys can have an opportunity to review the files. It gets drawn out a long time. So anyway, she was requesting a bail, an amendment to his bail conditions. And quite oddly, one of the requests was that he needs to have a chaperone, for lack of a better word, accompany him when he is out driving his taxi. And the chaperone has to be someone pre-approved by the transportation people and over the age of 21. I was sitting there going to myself, what kind of nonsense is this? I mean, literally in court, I was like, that sounds ridiculous. You're going to allow him, he's being accused, let me be very clear, of sexually assaulting a woman whilst driving a taxi. And you're going to allow him to continue to drive a taxi, but say, oh, he needs to have a 21-year-old chaperone. Who's that person going to be? Another woman? A parent? A friend? What? So someone who has nothing else to do but to drive around this guy as a taxi driver to chaperone him on the job was what they were suggesting. Now, I told you guys about this Leon Gold guy, that when we first did the initial story about him, there's a lot of people that contacted me about him. And I would be very concerned if I were a parent with a daughter with the likes of this man roaming around the place. That's what I'm going to tell you. Because some of the stories that we received were legit concerning. And I have said it before, and I'm going to say it again. If you have been sexually assaulted by someone, if someone has attempted to sexually assault you, you need to go to the authorities. Because when you don't do so, you allow these individuals to leave a trail of victims in their wake. And they will continue. They never stop. They will continue to victimize people until they are caught or somebody does something to them. So I'm trying to tell you all in good faith to do the right thing. Even if you're not doing it for yourself, think of other potential victims. Anyway, he's charged with 2 counts, indecent assault and assault by penetration. And when I heard this assault by penetration, I was like, what the heck is that? So I checked with some of my legal fraternity folks, and they have said that assault by penetration is normally when he has used an instrument to do the assault. So it was not necessarily with his own parts. I mean, it could be like a finger, it could be another object, whatever. And I was like, wow, because then I guess by definition, it's not rape to me. I'm like, what? Wouldn't that still be rape? But anyway, there's an offense by penetration offense on the books. Anyway, at the time of the assault, it is the alleged assault. It was revealed that he was not a licensed taxi driver, but was driving a licensed taxi because I think either his mom or dad or somebody owns a taxi company. So now the DPP shows up talking about, oh yes, let's allow him to drive a taxi. I think he has since retroactively been approved. Hear this. After he was accused of this and arrested, he was able to get approval from these same people who are now going to say, oh yeah, we'll approve a 20-year-old to drive, a 21-year-old to drive around with him. I'm sitting there going, Jesus, take the wheel, because I can't make this stuff up. Anyway, they wanted his passport confiscated. They also requested, what else did they request? Let me just look at the story here. They requested that he can't work or do anything with anyone 16 years or younger, which makes me wonder what the age of the victim was. That was kind of an interesting request. That he has a doorstop order, I think is what they call it, where he has to stay at a specific address. So he has to sleep there every single night sort of thing. And they specify what the address is. And they were also asking for a nighttime curfew from 10 p.m. to 7. And he could only work from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. So, of course, his lawyer, Mr. Jonathan Hughes, objected and said that why is this necessary? The man has been arrested for a year and 10 months. None of these bail conditions were there. Nothing has changed. He hasn't breached any of the existing conditions. So why are they all of a sudden requesting all this stuff? And it occurred to me when I was listening to Mr. Hughes speak that probably why it was being requested is that now that the case is in the public eye, it's getting a little bit of scrutiny. And that's all this is all about. And so now they're trying to pretend like they're actually doing something to protect the public. So the judge, the magistrate, McFarland, was kind of like, it is an unusual application at an unusual time because this is his third court appearance. And now you're seeking to amend his bail conditions? Kind of like, why? So essentially, she turned down their application. And then the lawyer said, oh, by the way, he's not even driving a taxi anymore. So that condition is irrelevant. And she said, well, this is why y'all need to be talking to each other. Because they shouldn't be showing up to court, making an application about the, Tourism and Transport Board approving someone to ride around with him when he no longer drives a taxi and his lawyer says he has no intentions of entering into that business again. We'll see, I suppose, because there's nothing prohibiting him from doing so at this point. So it was an interesting application, without a doubt. And the magistrate said no, but she did put the doorstop order, so he has to remain at that location, address in Georgetown. And she requested a surety of $1,500, as well as, what else did she put in place? So she didn't do the passport thing. Surety of $1,500. Yes, no contact with the victim directly or indirectly. And he has to sleep and live at a listed address in Georgetown. So he'll be back in court again in a couple weeks, where it's going to then be elevated to grand court because, of course, he is pleading not guilty. What a hot mess. I think these lawyers oftentimes need to get their ish together. And That's the best I can say. I noticed I had Jonathan's name misspelled. He spells it Thon, not Than. So I'm going to fix that in my story. Jonathan Hughes, he works with Sampson Law Associates. So there you have it, folks. Interesting things always going on in court. Today, the trial for the Tortuga robbery case does begin. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss the first bit of it because I will be in court. I'll be conducting an interview. My apologies. With the governor. So I took some of your questions. If you're in the What's Up News group, thank you so much for sending those questions through to us. And I was able to print those off, and I'll be taking those with me this morning. I'm going to head out now because, I need to look pretty for Mr. Governor. I'm going to go get my hair done. I'm not going to be like the lady Lavelle dancing on his doorsteps, because God knows that governor is getting quite an entertaining show. Someone sent me a video of her the other day exercising, like legit doing exercises in her heels and her Bati rider shorts. That's the only thing I can describe them as, because they are so short. Trust me. I'm like, this woman can't put on a little something decent. I mean, if you're going to protest and dance around and all this kind of stuff, all right, that's your right to do so. But my God, can you not at least wear clothes that aren't riding up your behind? Let me tell you, if I was the governor's wife, I'd be like, honey, can you not have her moved? Like, I'm not looking forward to this show every day. He must be, what I think he does is, this is what he does. Let me get a piece of paper. This is what he does when he's driving. He gets his driver, comes and picks him up. He probably purposely puts something in front of his face as she's out there performing like a lunatic. Now, people say she's got mental health issues. Sometimes she actually messaged me on WhatsApp. So I don't know if she just has lucid moments or what is going on. But anyway, Lavelle, stop dancing in front of the governor's house. Julie, thank you. Zambula says he's not even a taxi driver. So why would he need someone to drive around with him? The whole thing was crazy. I was looking at the DPP like, y'all are not on point today. So Zambula says he drove his mother's taxi because that would have been an easier way for him to pick up females and others. Nastiness, boy. It's been his style from the beginning. Like I said, the streets were talking the second that story came out. All kind of stories. No, sir. Ms. Paula says, my understanding is he don't have a taxi license. His mother drives a taxi, and it was alleged. Yeah, at the time of the alleged incident, he didn't have one, but I'm pretty sure that they actually gave him one afterwards. I will confirm, but I'm pretty sure that that's actually the case. Alicia says that the judge should give the other young quarantine breacher there 60 days for the safety of everyone on island. If someone else committed a crime and family problems, we don't and should not have used for law. Thank you very much. Excuses. Yeah, I keep telling you guys that people are entitled to bail. So most people will get bail, even sometimes if it's a serious offense like an alleged murder. They will get bail. Carson, you missed a lot today. Good morning, Miss Gay. How are you? So that's all she wrote. Someone said, please address the matter as it relates to Miss Lavelle protesting at the governor's residence and the fact that it's been almost 4 years and nothing has been done to rectify that situation. I would greatly appreciate if you can have these matters addressed. What situation is the question? So I guess the question is what situation? I don't know what situation you're referring to. and they said it's been 4 years. Someone says fake documents. Imagine the number of purchased master's and PhD certificates that are in town. So Dr. Saeed. I'm amazed that you got an appointment with the governor. I've tried for nearly a year and he wouldn't have acknowledged the letter. Well, my dear, we are now being acknowledged finally. Yes, folks. The governor, and to be fair to the governor's office, for a minute, they have been in talks with us behind the scenes. You guys just didn't know it. Big shout out to my friend Vanessa. We've been Facebook friends for 11 years. Look at us back in the day looking so sexy. Yeah. That was at a comedy show when they used to have them in that facility there at the Strand. Vanessa looked beautiful. And that's me with her. So happy friendversary, Vanessa. Here's our little agouti. I ran out of time to do the video because I do want to share the video with you guys. We'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. So, folks, I wish you a beautiful Thursday. I'm going to be busy, very busy today. So, if you message me and you don't get a response right away, that's why. And some days I get so many messages. Shout out to Miracle Brokers.
Miracle Brokers International is Cayman's premier source for all your packing, moving, and logistics needs. Whether it's moving a baby grand piano for a concert or moving halfway around the world, we have you covered with our team of local and international experts. MBI has over 30 years of industry experience and are able to get the job done for you right the first time. Contact us today for all your packing, moving, shipping, and logistics needs at 949-5989 or email info@miraclebrokers.com.
All right, so Paula says the nanny needs to be dealt with. For her part, doesn't matter if she's in Canada or not, border control, etc. Whomever, deal with it. These people aren't broke. They know how to work the system. Well, what I thought that was very, very interesting is if he is broke, he sure can afford the best lawyer because Ben Toner don't come cheap. And I'm pretty sure he's not eligible for legal aid. So maybe after all those legal fees, he might be broke, but he sure found money for good representation to appeal a 30-day sentence. Let's hope the judge does the right thing this morning, but we will certainly let you guys know. Have a beautiful day. Be safe, folks, and we shall see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.